Alright guys, welcome back to another episode of the Anything Wrestling Podcast. Thank you once again for joining us. Today we got the whole crew back together again. We got the Shant, Dan the Man, and the Commish.
Excuse me for a second if I may interject, but
What if
my
I said
name,
no?
It doesn't matter.
Okay.
It doesn't matter.
Can't stop him.
What you say.
That's copyright infringement.
Still part of this podcast. My name is the Commish, and I will be the advocate of this episode, along with Dan the Man here.
So you guys this time are co-advocating the podcast.
Yeah.
Okay, you guys are fired tomorrow.
We're gonna start our own network then. At that point,
I think we should call it the WWE Network. Wait, where have I heard that before?
I think I've heard it somewhere here.
You can catch all your favorite programming only on the WWE Network for a non-negotiable but reasonable price of only $9.99. Cancel anytime, no commitments. First month is free for new subscribers.
Very reasonable.
If I make a new email, does that make me a new subscriber?
Dan, we are going under the radar with you saying that right now.
Yes.
All jokes aside, yes, we are here to discuss just that. I have been the advocate for the WWE Network since we started recording. But today we are here to actually talk about the idea of the network itself, the concepts behind it, the idea behind it.
The impact. Wait.
Wrong company.
Most of their wrestlers are in the WWE now, so
AJ Styles.
that was the face right there.
First of all,
ran the place.
I want to take a quick survey.
Hey, yeah.
Personally, what do you guys think of the network right now overall? Do you guys think that it's okay? They need to do some work on it? Do you guys feel like it's a horrendous idea? Just get rid of it?
For the most part, I enjoy it. I like a decent amount of the programming that's on there. I don't watch it all that regularly, but when I find myself with some downtime, I'll be like, okay, I'll check some stuff out. I catch the pay-per-views. If there's something I want to go back and rewatch from a pay-per-view, it's nice to have that easily accessible.
Right.
Versus the old days of buying an actual pay-per-view
For
and then
$60.
You have a replay, and that's all, and then you're on your own.
Or even then, if you would get the replay, sometimes in my day, you would have to wait literally 2 days after, and it's not as exciting because everything's discussed on Raw as far as what happened or
Spoilers.
Spoilers are also like the continuing story, because they're obviously in every pay-per-view there was something that would have to carry on the following night. My thoughts on the network, honestly, coming from me, who's coming back into wrestling like full time now, unlike other wrestlers, he shall not be mentioned, Brock.
Here we go.
It's helped me really like feel connected back to what I grew up on as well, because there's a lot of stuff obviously like we grew up on as kids and teenagers that we love, and like something like this gives you the easy accessibility to like, all right, there is certain events I missed and why they didn't really interline with certain pay-per-views I may have caught up on or Raw episodes. So the network gives you that ability to go way back to whenever you started watching, or whenever you like to, like, oh, I want to know how this rivalry started, or I want to know how Triple H became the game, or how, you know, there were so many factions back in the day. You know, you want to like catch up on all that, and it helps.
And you can zone in on specific stars, on specific events. I think I've gone back a couple of times too, because we've talked about it before, the Invasion angle.
Yes.
And just watched some of the matches from there, like the Edge versus Lance Storm. I think I've rewatched the Armageddon Hell in a Cell, where Rikishi gets thrown off the cell.
Sometimes I cringe. I'm like, what if he fell like a couple inches to the left or the right? He would have come down on the railings of the truck.
And he'd be dead.
Yes.
So let's just be glad that didn't happen.
But just remember, he did it for The Rock.
God, that was the worst shoot ever, by the way. I'm sorry.
Personally, to me, when the WWE Network was released, I thought, what a brilliant idea. Because at first, I think everyone was under the impression of, oh, we're only going to see, old stuff. All the Raw replays, SmackDown replays, pay-per-view replays. But they also have all original content, never before seen stuff. And going back to both of your points, with you, you're saying going back and reliving stuff that you have probably never even seen before, maybe even before your time. Earlier this year, I hadn't seen the first 14 WrestleManias in their entirety. I went back and just binge watched them all back to back to back.
Very little sleep those days.
No, really.
Kind of, sort of, maybe. But also, you get to discover, like, you know, some of those, like, backstage little secrets that you never actually knew about. Like, they got the Bruce Pritchard podcast, Something Else to Wrestle With. You watch that and you discover all these little secrets about superstars and main events and what actually happened and what was actually in the plans. I mean, honestly, one of the things that sometimes I kind of cringe at is that if I was a WWE superstar, I would be concerned with the pay. Because you go from charging $60 on pay-per-views to now only $9.99 on the WWE Network.
That seems reasonable.
Non-negotiable, but very reasonable. You know, there's a part of me that's like, how is the pay over there? Because if now if the audience is only spending $9.99 on a pay-per-view, you know.
Well, here's where I think that the business model does work. So, you wouldn't always buy the pay-per-views when they were $70.
Right.
But now you've got your low price of $9.99 that seems reasonable, although not negotiable. And so you pay $9.99 a month, and sometimes you don't even watch stuff in a month. Sometimes I find myself going like a month where I don't log in at all.
Yeah.
But then I'll go in the next month. I'll rewatch a pay-per-view. I'll watch some Story Time, Camp WWE, those things. So I think bringing the price down enables more people to mentally put $10 aside for this every month. So you've probably got more people throwing their money into the pot each month than you had proportionally getting just those pay-per-view buys. Plus, it's international now, so you also got people all over the world who are buying into it.
What did you guys think of the way that they were advertising the network roughly the first year? I mean, for God's sakes, Hulk Hogan's birthday cake said $9.99 on his birthday cake on Raw. I mean, I can remember when Triple H came out and he was cutting this promo, and he just keeps on going back to the network for only $9.99. Keeps on going back to the network for only $9.99. And next thing you know, everybody else is doing it. Michael Cole, my God, was doing it up the ass every single time. What did you guys think of that?
Let's just hope he asked for permission. Go ahead.
I don't remember that. I thought, like, at first seeing it, it's like, okay, this is something that I guess, because keep in mind, before the network, you really only had, like, the WWE website to rely on.
And YouTube.
But, like, if you wanted good content, the website wouldn't really deliver. So they thought, okay, if we build this network, we're really going to have to push it and advertise, like, the fuck out of it, because honestly, like, this is going to make or break us as far as, like,
it was a huge investment.
How we
I
deliver
think their
content.
stock dropped initially because the investors didn't have faith in this lasting. And I think if you'd come in and you'd only been posting pay-per-views and Raws and SmackDowns, it would be dead already.
Yeah.
But the fact that they then came out with all of this stuff gave it some lifeblood. Go ahead.
And it draws, and like I was saying before, like how it drew me back in to wrestling. Like it keeps, like, the fans that are already there, like, okay, I know I can watch Raw and SmackDown, you know, because I have cable. And granted, I gotta pay like $60, $70 for a goddamn pay-per-view, which can either be a great event or really shitty.
SummerSlam.
Extreme Rules. Both. But you know what I mean. Like, you really, like, at that point, they were like, okay, this is really going to make or break us now as a company. You know, a lot of people are now starting to go different directions with the wrestling, whether it's ROH, Ring of Honor, or
New Japan
Pro Wrestling, which is very hard to, like, really watch some other shows, especially if it's like 3, 4 in the morning sometimes. But you know what I'm saying? Like, with the network, it's like, okay, it draws in even other fans who aren't subscribed yet. Like, oh wait, you mean I can watch my pay-per-views there? I can afford them now? Oh my God, wait, I can watch stuff I've missed, like Raw from like 3 months ago, or a SmackDown event that I missed? Holy crap. Like, I think because of their push, because of how much they were advertising it, some people were giving in, and then it kind of took this whole word of mouth thing, like, all right, hey, by the way, remember that one SummerSlam where so and so did this, and it's like, yeah, that was so cool, but I don't have a tape of it. Like, dude, get the WWE Network for $9.99,
Non-negotiable, but very reasonable.
and you can watch it there. And it's like, oh crap, and then that person will tell this person, and it just went viral.
Domino effect.
Yeah.
I think the network was originally in talks of being launched back in 2012, 2 years before, but I forget what the reasoning was, but it just didn't come to fruition. I think they were kind of still juggling the idea, and then when all of a sudden, the streaming, services on, gaming consoles and, Fire Sticks and, TVs and whatnot kind of became a thing, they thought, hey, maybe we should go in this direction as opposed to whatever they had planned before.
I think they did, if I remember correctly, I think they did run into some issues getting their hands on a server that could handle what they wanted to do.
Okay.
So that pushed them back a little bit. But then, yeah, they figured it out. And that's when they actually kicked it off.
For only $9.99.
$9.99.
$9.99.
Not $10.
Not $1,000.
Not $1 million.
I've heard that somewhere before, by the way.
But $9.99.
Now let's get to, so we've talked about the concept and kind of the genesis of the network, but now I want to talk about the actual programming itself. So I want to discuss with you guys, some of your favorite pieces of programming or what you like to do personally on the WWE Network.
Do you want me to throw some stuff out there real quick that you guys might not necessarily have thought about yet?
Go ahead.
Sure.
All right, so I have a list of programs that have been on there. First of all, you got NXT, you got the Mae Young Classic, Cruiserweight Classic, Edge and Christian's show, Camp WWE, Storytime, Ride Along, Southpaw Regional Wrestling, Table for Three, WWE 24, Superstar Inc., and much, much more.
I've kind of been a fan of just going back to like the 90s, in particular 96. Because obviously, I've said on this podcast, that's when I got hooked with WrestleMania 12. And then at one point, I had access to a friend's house. We were wrestling fans, and they had a legal cable box, which gave you free pay-per-view channels. And we were able to catch pay-per-view events every, month on Sundays. And it was fun. But at one point, obviously, you get caught with these boxes. You'd have to return it. And then it'd be even harder to go find someone who had access to a pay-per-view. But because of the network, it's like I've been binge watching almost every single pay-per-view event. I'm literally at 1998 right now.
From 96 to 98, you've watched all the pay-per-views? Wow.
Mm-hmm. And
Nice.
I just finished February's No Way Out, going into WrestleMania 14.
This is 90, okay.
And if I'm not doing that, I'll start looking at the newer original content. So I have a sick humor when it comes to cartoons for some reason. And when we were discussing it one day at our friend Kevin's house about Camp WWE, you were telling me a particular episode that involved Triple H's father,
Quadruple H.
voiced by Triple H. I'm like, what the hell is he talking about? So I literally found Camp WWE. I found that particular episode. And not only was it about Triple H and his father, but it was also about the Ultimate Warrior. And granted that they actually had the Ultimate Warrior do audio for the cartoon. So
Yeah.
the cartoon had already been in planning for years.
Yes.
Even though it came out in 2016, its season 2 was literally this year. It was great watching that, and just watching those cartoons, it the way Seth Green and the creators, because he's a big fan of the WWE as
Yeah.
well, and they literally give you what fans see of their favorite wrestlers. Obviously, John Cena is the biggest suck up to Mr. McMahon, who runs the camp. You see Vince McMahon, which I think he's in his truest form of how he talks behind the scenes.
That's what I imagine Vince's actual personality is.
It's
Vince McMahon on Camp WWE.
Ironically, in the PG era.
Exactly. That's what makes it even greater, because
That's the paradox right there.
and then
Roman.
Oh, by the way, he is drawn in, no lines. Like you get the whole Shield in there, but they never speak. But you see their characters. I think the most vocal like wrestling characters are Austin,
Of course.
Cena,
Cena.
The Rock.
He had his one episode. Sometimes he'll have other ones. The Bella Twins, mostly
Yeah,
Nikki. Sergeant Slaughter
Oh yeah, Sarge.
and Ric
Flair.
Woo!
Oh man.
But yeah, like if I'm not watching that, I did before I knew Stone Cold's podcast was on the network as well. I would catch some of the episodes through YouTube, and like you would get like the most honest Stone Cold there because like he loves this business. He's all about it, and you've heard him on some interviews call out wrestlers like, "Oh, why'd you do that? You know, what were you really thinking when you're, doing that?" And it's like you're getting grilled by like the best wrestler in the world.
Well, I think the last episode, which was on Dean Ambrose, is the one where Austin really kind of dug his nails into Dean. Is like, do you hear me? Am I communicating through to you? And Dean was kind of like, I don't know if he had a hangover or if he was just not there, but you just see Dean like, yeah, he's not there. Anyway, Dan the Man, your favorite programming or what you like to personally do on the WWE Network for a non-negotiable but reasonable price of only $9.99.
For me, there's a couple of shows that I'll check into occasionally. Camp WWE being one of them. I've watched a few episodes of Storytime lately. There was one that I just checked in with on. I think it was just on YouTube yesterday. It was an excerpt from Matt Hardy talking about a time Vince on the plane tried to tackle Kurt Angle.
Is this the plane ride from hell?
I think it's part of it.
Okay.
But so I guess Vince roped Matt Hardy into trying to lure Kurt to the back of the plane, and then when Vince tried to tackle Kurt just planted him, put him on his back, and it sounds like it was probably pretty funny. I don't know if there's more to the actual story, but Ride Along seems like it'd be fun.
Yes, I was gonna say Ride Along, one of my favorites.
Though I haven't checked it out yet, but I know that they were doing, I think, Bliss and Strowman there for a minute when they were doing the Mixed Match Challenge, and I want to check in with them specifically. And then Table for Three.
Yes.
I've started watching that too.
Speaking of Table for Three.
Hey.
Hey.
And then obviously you got NXT that isn't actually on TV, so you have to check it out on the WWE Network for just $9.99. But they just had TakeOver here before.
I was gonna say
SummerSlam.
Those takeover shows, man. Triple H is on par with whatever it is that he's doing. Every single time, so takeovers are usually like 2 hours and 50 minutes.
Yeah, it's a pay-per-view.
But you watch those and you feel like you got your money's worth in a sense, but also you feel like, you know what, this was worth it, I mean, as we said before, we've watched Extreme Rules this year and SummerSlam. We're like, really?
Yeah.
Meanwhile,
you watch NXT, you're like, son of a bitch.
Everyone in recent years has been saying that some of the NXT shows is more better than WrestleMania.
Yeah. Did either of you guys check out Ricochet versus Adam Cole?
Yes.
Did you see that fucking straight kick to the neck? Jesus.
I think that's the most replayed clip that I've seen. Like, I'll go back and see, the hardest hits of 2018. That clip is in there.
Have you heard about this?
I've heard something of it.
So Ricochet comes off a back handspring, or is it
he springboards the ropes and does
he
a flip.
springboard moonsaults toward Adam Cole, and Adam Cole just short side kicks him in the neck.
Jesus.
And knocks him out of the air, and you're like, Jesus Christ!
And to make it better, he picks him up, immediately gives him a brainbuster.
Yeah.
Oh my god!
I thought the match was over. I'm like, he's not gonna kick out of that.
And then he did. But sorry, spoiler alert. But yeah, so there's a lot of good stuff on there that I do like. So.
What about you, Sean? What do you find to do when you log into the network?
Well, as of recent, and I know this is going to take me a long time to accomplish, but I've been rewatching Raw 1997, first episode.
Wow.
And my goal is to get all the way to 2003.
So you're doing only Raw episodes?
No, Raw, and then when 99 comes around, I want to check out all the SmackDowns and all the pay-per-views in between.
Oh my god.
So
that's more.
Shant is insane.
That's more dedication than me just doing pay-per-views only.
Shant is all in.
Consequently, check that out on the... Wait, that's not on the network.
You can find like YouTube clips.
Yeah, find that on YouTube for the low price of free.
Yeah, it's free, I guess.
It's not negotiable.
I think they're technically illegal clips.
Yeah.
But,
or if you just really just want to get a stream of it through Instagram, just write in a hashtag all in.
Yeah.
And you get to see Cody or the American Nightmare Cody. Get the pinfall and win the NWA championship.
Good match. It was a good match.
Yes. So yeah, that's what I'm doing right now. Some of my favorite stuff to watch would be Ride Along.
Yeah.
I thought Swerved was great.
I liked Swerve, but I heard that it was pissing a lot of superstars off, and that's part of why they put the kibosh to it.
So Swerved was one of them. Ride Along. Table for Three was great. The Steve Austin podcast was another one.
I think what it is with the original content is that you get to see the personality of the wrestlers and the managers that you are a fan of. Like,
Yeah.
with Storytime, like, I've seen some of those episodes and, like, hearing the stories that, like, you know, Paul Heyman had, or who else was it?
Did you watch the one where he talked about Freddie Blassie?
Yeah, that was great.
How old was he? 14? 15?
Yeah.
Not preteen, but teenage Paul Heyman has to drive Freddie Blassie home,
Because
And-
Freddie Blassie is just blind
and
as a bat.
hilarity ensues. But go ahead.
But like you get to see like all these personalities outside of the ring.
Yes.
Obviously, when you watch Raw, SmackDown, NXT, pay-per-view events, you see that they're like in their character mode. Off screen,
Yeah, getting a peek behind the curtain.
Yes.
you get to see who they really are, and like you get to appreciate them more. And this is what's great about the original shows now, is because it gives you reason to like.
Even your favorite heel.
Exactly.
Because then you grow an affection for them as a person, not just a character.
Yes.
And I will admit this,
Here we
because
go.
on Table for Three, there was the reunion episode of The Shield. And granted, I did learn about the whole, how their gimmick was going to first start with the actual
The
Shield.
Shields, yeah.
And I thought, like, okay, they were very smart to say, you know what, that's stupid. We're
I
gonna
think
leave
the
them in
Shield,
back.
if they came back with those shields, they wouldn't have been taken seriously. They would have been like a comedy act,
Yeah.
you know?
And like it's funny hearing like Dean Ambrose like just say like, you know, I just kept going on tangents whenever I had the mic, and like you just see Rollins and Roman Reigns, they're just there like, yeah, we didn't know what the hell we were saying sometimes, like.
Well, we know that with Roman now, but
But like even they were like, what were we doing? What were we thinking? And like you get to see their personalities. And with every other superstar that's been on it, like you get to see like, oh, I used to be like this, you know. Do I regret what I did? No, but like obviously, you know, I've come to learn that like not everyone was a fan of this.
yeah.
And you get more stories about some of the guys.
Yeah, and like for me, a small example of that same mentality is, I think I've told both of you guys about the one time I ran into Summer Rae, and I had been watching Total
Yes.
Divas, and so I had gotten to see some of her personality, and up until watching some of the show, I didn't give a shit about Summer Rae. The character was just, she was there. I don't even think she talked on the program. She was just a valet.
A lot of people said she was the modern day Stacy Keibler.
Yeah, okay.
Sure,
But
sure.
then I watched some of Total Divas and got to see some of Danielle's actual personality. And then when I met her, she was lovely. And so I actually had an affection for Summer Rae as a person and a character when I met her, and that's why I actually geeked out when it happened. So
That's great. I mean, like, if you get that ability to meet, like, any wrestler now, or even wrestler of the past, and you know who they are, both on screen and off screen, you're going to geek out.
yeah.
Especially if you like them or you hate them.
Absolutely. We've talked about the good, but where there's the good, there's the bad. So now I want to get your guys' take on one of the worst shows on the network or one of the worst things about the network, what would it be?
Do you want to go with this one?
Sure. First of all, fix your search engine, for Christ's sakes.
Yeah, it's rough. The search engine's pretty rough.
Jesus Christ, it's been 4 years. That thing has not even gone one patch at all.
It's tough to find some of the stuff.
Yeah. So that first and foremost, fix that. Dan,
Why haven't you fixed your search engine?
thank you. In regards to one of the worst TV programming, Jesus.
In the meantime, I'll jump in real quick.
Yes, go ahead.
So, two shows that I never really clicked with, but they existed, were the Edge and Christian show and Legends House.
Really?
Yeah, I wasn't a huge fan of Legends House because there were some legends on at least. How many? They do 2 seasons of that one?
I think
One.
so.
They only did one?
Only one.
Felt like 2.
Some of the stars that were in there, I didn't care about, and I'm not a huge fan of things like Big Brother, which is kind of had the vibe of, and so I was just not
Like most
interested in that.
reality shows.
Yeah, and then Edge and Christian was sort of it was a strange variety show, and I mean, you got to see their brand of humor because it was very consistent with reeking of awesomeness, but it just couldn't hold my attention. So those are my 2 big ones.
I mean, to be very honest, I think if I were to choose something, it would be what was the show with Corey Graves?
Superstar
Culture Shock.
Oh yeah, Culture Shock.
I'm
Culture Shock
not
or
into
whatever.
that type of stuff, so I could never really get into it.
Yeah.
So sorry, Corey, nothing against you. It's just I can never get into it.
Yeah.
One thing I did also want to mention was WWE 24.
Yeah.
I think that's brilliant. You know, you talk about all the behind the scenes stories and, you know, what they actually go through and to get ready and all kind of the last minute, you know, screw ups they got to deal with. I think that stuff is great. So, go ahead.
I think the one thing I don't like sometimes about the network is when going back to prior stuff is that sometimes it doesn't load properly. That bugs the hell out of me. Like connectivity as far as sometimes like loading capability of some of the past and prior shows. I wasn't a big fan also of the Edge and Christian show. They're great. Don't get me wrong. But like some of their stuff at one point is like a little slapstick.
Yeah.
And it's kind of dry or just like okay.
Yeah.
You guys are either trying too hard
Yeah,
or
they were
not
hit or
trying.
miss.
Yeah.
Did you guys feel like there was a show that just would hit consistently? Every time you would tune in, it was not stale. It had you on the edge of your seat.
That one's tough. Like we kind of discussed, I like Camp WWE. I think it's pretty consistent with being funny.
Yeah.
I got sort of a kick out of Holy Foley there for a minute, but that's probably mostly because I like Mick, but I also like his daughter, Noelle.
In more ways than one, if I can add.
Now one that I always liked was Unfiltered. I did like Unfiltered with Renee.
Yeah.
Because I find her to be charming, and like we were talking about, that let you kind of see the everyday personality of the superstars she would be interviewing. And so it was a little bit of a change of pace. It gave them some time to breathe and relax. I saw one where it was, I think, Randy Orton and Renee, and I think his wife at the time.
Yeah. Wait, they're no longer together?
No, I mean, like, I think they were already already married.
Yeah.
But I can't remember. But his wife and they were all there, and they were just talking, and it was nice. It was cool to see Randy.
Nice, candid conversation.
Especially because when you were seeing Randy as a sometimes his character had been just boring, and you're like, you seem so bland. But then you saw that, and you're like, oh, but he seems like a chill dude.
Yeah, and you can also shake his hand.
And the thing about
You might want to be careful with that. Go ahead.
he is the apex predator.
For a different reason.
The thing about that, if you catch it on different shows on the WWE Network,
For only $9.99.
substantial but fair. It's a fair price.
Substantial, that ain't the slogan.
Okay, excuse me for.
We are following protocol here.
Have you ever held 99 cents, Sean? That's a handful of coins.
Have
It
you
is.
ever held $9.99?
I've held a sign that says $9.99. Does that count?
On the WWE Network.
But
God, that digressed really bad.
that was great.
Like Roman's career.
Oh, there it is. But if you go on to most of the original content, a lot of people do have a lot to say about other superstars. Like, I hear a lot about Randy Orton always. Like, from other people. They're like, especially the new guys. There's a Table for 3 episode with Matt and Jeff Hardy and Finn Balor.
Yeah.
And Finn was discussing to them, like, oh, you know, when I first came to the WWE, like, I was nervous because of coming from the indie circuit. Like, I had been warned, like, oh, you know, you got to be careful with them. But then, like, coming in, like, I felt like the warmest reception from everybody. Everybody was very nice, especially Randy Orton. And you're like, wait, Randy Orton is a nice guy? The guy who, like,
Shakes your hand.
will shake your hand, and then next thing you know, you're in the air in an RKO, or like you're getting kicked in the face. Like, good lord, that guy.
The punt kick.
And you see this, and you're just like, wow, these guys have a lot to say about each other, and they have a lot to say about some of the wrestlers that you would think, like, oh my god, like that guy really is a dick, or this guy really is like the nicest guy you'll ever meet. And that's the continuity that I love about this, is that, like, you hear about everybody. It's never centered like, oh, me, unless you're Edge and Christian.
Yeah.
But you know what I mean? Like, you get that resolve, like, okay, like, all these shows reveal like the best of everybody.
And you hear so often that there's a camaraderie backstage. And so to get that little peek at that, where everybody is talking fondly of most of the people,
Yeah, most.
you go, it's nice to see that they tend to like each other. So
They actually get along.
yeah,
Like, even though, like, they know that they're on story sometimes, like, they know behind the scenes, they're like, okay, like, did I sell it? Did I do good? And even, like, again, going back to Table for 3, there was the Giants episode where you have Mark Henry,
Kane and Big Show
talking. And just hearing Big Show, like, go backstage to Vince, and Vince just being up in his face, like, what the hell are you doing?
yeah.
And it's like, the Big Show's scared of Vince McMahon. That says a lot right there.
Everybody's scared of Vince McMahon.
Respect your elders.
Respect the devil. More like it.
One show that I thought, again, on a weekly basis was consistent and allowed for the superstars to grow and offer them, knowledge and what to do, what not to do, was Talking Smack.
Mm-hmm.
Raw Talk, not so much.
Yeah, Talking Smack was the marquee of the two.
And I'm surprised when Vince McMahon said it's not getting enough views, we're going to stop it on a weekly basis, and now we're just going to do it when a pay-per-view, ends. But I think the most infamous thing to come out of that was, of course, the Miz and Daniel Bryan segment, which I thought was brilliant, because you get people talking, and then they have that one SummerSlam match.
Yeah.
What did you guys think of Talking Smack as a whole?
If I could take
Good.
this one, like, with Talking Smack, like, I love the fact that, like, you get that post-show vibe.
Yeah.
Where either your superstars are still in character, or they're out of character and just being, like, upfront about what just happened on the show. And, like, the fact that Raw Talk didn't do so well, like, Raw's slowly finally picking up.
Yeah.
Slowly, some segments, not all. But, like, SmackDown, like, they've come a long way as a show of their own. For not being on as long as Raw has, like, doing this show just gives you more. And you're still tuned in to, like, okay, obviously you got to learn about The Miz and Daniel Bryan. And I think that segment alone, like, yeah, it added more fuel to the fire of hatred they have for each other. But it's like, I think, like, being not a big a fan of The Miz, I think I've grown to have more respect for him. Because he shows how adamant he loves this company, how much he loves this job. And as he's growing as, like, trying to have his own family and all this, you still see the passion and the fire he still has from his way beginnings of, you know, being a reality star, coming in as a rookie and then developing himself into this character. And then with Daniel Bryan, you know, you learn more about how humble he is and like how, like, because it felt real.
Oh,
like just seeing Daniel Bryan walk out.
Bryan
like,
was not prepared for that.
No, he wasn't, and that's what made that whole segment even better. Because you still get that vibe of like SmackDown, but you also get like the realness after the show, and it's like, oh my goodness, like this is really happening right now.
Yeah.
And like to have him walk out, like Miz sold it.
Yeah.
And he also like put realism into it.
No,
Yeah.
you keep that camera on me.
And Renee's like, what's going on right now?
No, it was a great promo. I felt for Bryan because like I said, from every account I've heard, he was not prepared for that because it was the Miz kind of going a little rogue. And
A little?
he just cut into him and was hitting him where it hurt. You can't wrestle because you hurt your fucking brain. Basically. And Bryan's just like, I would wrestle if they'd let me. And Miz just kept going. And Bryan's like, I'm out. I can't do this shit because I'm gonna knock your boy out.
And ironically, Miz was saying, I was expecting to get punched in the face.
Yeah.
I was waiting for him to punch me in the face because my mouth has got me into trouble before.
And he knows that. And the fact that he knows that, like, on a personal note, makes it even better. Made that whole thing even better.
Well, I was also gonna say that, including the fact that before, you know, a pay-per-view match or whatever, they would have that Talking Smack segment inside the packages. So it's not something that they would just do and then it's like, okay, let's put that to the side. It's a network exclusive. Now let's focus on what happened in the ring.
Yeah.
No, they take that and it becomes synonymous with everything that's going on, which I thought was brilliant.
Which is kind of like showing in this modern day now when they build packages of certain like matches. Because if you notice it, if you go back to like prior year events, like there was always a build up between like two guys wrestling. I think one of them, which was a long one building up, Shawn Michaels and Bret Hart. Like they made this big package of like before the infamous Montreal Screwjob.
Yeah, the package was huge.
It dated back to WrestleMania 12. That was huge. That package was huge.
It was an intimidatingly large package.
When did this package air?
It was in '97.
They wanted to keep it under wraps. They wanted to keep that package under wraps, and they couldn't. It was too big.
Ginormous. Just raw, gorging strength.
Like
Oh.
Batista's what?
Wow.
Can we get Melina on the phone?
No. Anyways.
I still haven't read your book. I'm sorry. I own it, Batista, so you're welcome. But
Well, he walks alone.
But yeah, like you get this sense of like what they're doing now. It's like, okay, these two obviously have a match. There's a build up. I think we lost Dan
no,
for a
I'm good.
second.
I'm just reflecting on the fact that we just fucking did like a 30-second joke about a package. Go ahead.
I think that was a good bit. Wow, that's the best way to end it. A bit of
Oh man.
good
All right.
times. Good
Getting
times.
back on track. Go ahead.
But yeah, you have these build-ups, these snippets of clips just being to show us like, okay, these two have a rivalry. These two are going at it, and on the network
For only $9.99.
you can
$9.99.
catch all this and you can see it, and it's like, oh, this is great. I like this. And I think that's the best thing right now about SmackDown, that it's learning from the past to give a greater future of programming. Because let's face it, like, yes, certain shows are growing a little stale. They can fix their writing. SmackDown can get it right on their show.
That is true. That is
But
true.
pay-per-view wise, it's hard to sell right now, because let's be real. The last two pay-per-views we've seen, extremely lackluster, even though they're on the WWE Network.
For only $9.99.
$9.99.
$9.99,
Not $10.
not $1,000,
Not $1 million.
but $9.99.
That was so beautiful. Final question.
Yes.
What is your guys' guilty pleasure on the WWE Network? What's the one clip that you have gone back to and you have watched over and over again?
Ah, jeez.
Because I feel like everyone has that one clip or that one pay-per-view or that one match where they will always go back and watch it.
I have mine.
Yeah.
There's two of them. They're both Hell in a Cell matches, ironically. The very, very first Hell in a Cell match,
There you go.
and then 1998's King of the Ring Hell in a Cell
my
match.
goodness.
I can watch Shawn Michaels and Mick Foley fall off that cage like nothing. I can watch Mick Foley get chokeslammed through the cage into the ring like nothing. I can watch the premiere of Kane like it was brand new all over again.
You know,
Always.
to touch on that, I think that's one of the best parts about the network is that some of their shows are completely uncensored and they're uncut. I recently also watched that Hell in a Cell with Mick Foley and Undertaker, and I'm like, Mick, how are you still alive?
Oh, I cringe every time.
Because you see highlights all the time. You know, people put together package videos on YouTube and the network and whatnot, but when you go back and you see every solitary second of that match, you're like, stay down, Mick. Stop.
Oh, like
just stop.
and the funny thing, the nostalgia factor, like I think back, like I was a kid watching this, and I'm like, the shock value as a kid, I'm like, oh my god, he just like Shawn Michaels just fell off a cage.
By God! By
And then seeing hearing Jim Ross's reaction was great, and then seeing the King of the Ring match as a kid, it's like, did he just kill Mankind? Mankind's finally dead.
Huh? Mankind is dead.
But like,
That man is broken in half.
but then like seeing it now in my prime year of an adult, I'm like, oh my god, they went this far to entertain us.
For King of the... It's not even a SummerSlam or WrestleMania. It's King of the Ring.
And King of the Ring at that point was starting to be very lackluster.
Yes.
But
Mabel.
That King Mabel. Or King Viscera, as he called himself at one point. But those are my
King Big Daddy V.
Those are my go-tos. Those are my go-tos. Well, I don't know about you, Dan. What's
Damn
yours?
the man.
Mine are probably. I think mine go to my long-standing affection for The Rock. One of my favorite matches.
Did you do it for The Rock?
I did do it for The Rock. One of mine is that 6-man tag match with Vince going for that people's elbow, and The Rock picks up the win for the
rock
belt.
bottom, yeah.
It's just one of my favorite matches because you had the side with the heroes, and you had essentially the Authority on the other side, and Vince thought he was gonna sneak away with Triple H's fucking title, and he was gonna be like, I'm the world champion, and then The Rock won.
Do-rag.
And the other one, that I still like was the handicap match for the WCW title with The Rock versus Booker and Shane.
Yes.
Oh, that was a good match.
That was a solid match, and so I like to go back and watch that one every once in a while too.
Beautiful.
Sean?
For
yours?
me, it would be a ECW One Night Stand 2005.
AC Dub.
EC Dub.
EC Dub.
EC Dub.
AC Dub.
That last match, it has everything that a hardcore R-rated fan would want to see. Everything, just summed up into 15 minutes. Other than that, anything with Steve Austin on it would be my guilty pleasure, just going back and rewatching it. So, any last minute remarks about the WWE Network for only $9.99 before we wrap?
I would like to see them revisit some of the programming that they've stopped. Things like The Unfiltered with Renee Young. Especially now that you have so much more blood in the company. You have so many superstars we'd love to see have a one-on-one interview with Renee Young. I'd like to see her sit down and talk to Finn. Maybe Shinsuke, but, he knows speak English. If we could
Bad
get...
audio?
If we could get the Stone Cold podcast thrown back up on there. I know they do. He still does the podcast, but watching it was always fun. I'd like to see something like, I know there's a lot of the superstars in the company who like to consider themselves chefs. I wouldn't mind seeing a cooking show with some WWE superstars. That'd be fun. But
Would you smell what The Rock is cooking?
I would. I'd like to.
Huh?
I love the original content. I love that it draws me in. Like, if you could get more than 5 episodes on Camp WWE, like, let's explore, like, what other legends you would put in there as counselors, or, like,
Yeah.
let's get the Shield doing something crazy as kids. I would love to see that. And Seth Green, please make that happen.
I'd also like the most recent episodes of Raw and SmackDown to be put up on there in their entirety,
It takes
because
such a long time to get on.
Well,
Yeah.
I think it's a copyright thing because once they
'Cause
air it on
it's
TV, they need
partnered
30
with the other
days
companies,
for it to be. But I was also thinking.
to have to go to YouTube to watch individual clips instead of being able to watch the whole show that you missed.
Right.
But go ahead.
I know a site. I think one thing that I would kind of be a fan of would be to have an exclusive WWE show where if you have superstars who are not being used properly or modernly, to have this exclusive show where they can compete, and not like a WWE Superstars type of deal or like a main event type of deal, like a legit
Or kind of not like what WWC or WCW used to do with their Saturday afternoon shows, or with WWE Superstars or Saturday Night Main Event.
recently.
Yeah, like you would want an actual like dedicated show.
Yes.
That can not just like, oh, they're gimmicky C-rated stars.
Yep.
You would want them to get actual pushes.
Yep.
I think I would
Yeah.
love to see that.
Something like a WWE Proving Grounds or something, where you take all the stars where they're not being used, and it lets them kind of workshop their stuff, improve their work. Throw Lana on there. I like Lana, man. I want her to get better. I don't think she'll ever be like a Trish Stratus, but she's getting better.
What day is it?
Rusev Day.
You got it right.
He did. It is Rusev Day. I'm sorry. It is Rusev Day.
Lana is the best.
Lana
number one. What is it? Is
That
it 2
was-
claps?
I think it's
So
too
off
close.
cue,
I
yeah.
know. Anyways,
But yeah, I mean that
Yeah.
would.
It's 2 claps, guys. It's 2 claps.
So yeah, that would be one thing that I would love to see on the network, is a 4th, which I know is probably gonna be a big no, because technically it would be the 6th show, because you got Raw, SmackDown, NXT 205 Live.
They could film that shit at the Performance Center.
They have one more.
no, I think that's it.
That's it?
Just 4. So that'd be 5th.
It would be the fifth show. Yeah. So
You could film that shit at the Performance Center.
yeah.
It doesn't have to be in front of a.
I think Proving
actual
Ground is
audience.
actually a really good name for the show. Proving Ground.
You're welcome.
Vince, if you're listening.
He's not.
Damn it.
Yeah, we discussed the WWE Network, which you can get for a non-negotiable but very reasonable price of only $9.99. No commitments, free for new subscribers.
First month.
What did I say?
You forgot the first month part.
Yeah, you don't get to just get the network for free forever because you haven't signed up before. Don't get greedy.
How dare you?
Unless if you change your counts, what?
Anyways,
So there you go, guys. We discussed the WWE Network. Thank you so much for joining us, and we will see you all next time.